Hey Bob, it's Dusty over here at Escondido German. Just want to go over your wife's CLK500. This was a pretty crazy ride for us. Want to go over what we found. We originally had this thing come in for a Evap small leak detected. We didn't find anything wrong at the first go around with this thing. It was passing the test perfectly. So we put that purge valve in there just to, because that's 90% of the time that's the most common failure on these cars. So second time around we checked it. We did find a leak. This is the right rear of your car. We pulled a fender liner out of it. That is part of the system, and what we found is this line right here had JB weld on it. This is your new one, but on your old one right here, you can see where someone had tried to fix a leak. It was unsuccessful, and when we did our smoke test, we filled the whole system with smoke, and you can actually physically see where it was coming out. It was pouring out of the back side of it right here, where it was just unsuccessful at sealing it with that epoxy. Order that, replace that. On further testing, we noticed that we had a small amount of leak, you know, because this is a small leak we were chasing. We didn't want to take any chances. They actually updated this unit right here. It's called the charcoal canister shutoff valve, and that's supposed to basically plug the system at the back end for any potential leaks. So we replaced the new part, put the updated harness in it, checked it. We had thought it looked like someone had repaired the harness in the back because it had a different style electrical tape covering the wires. So we removed all that, checked it, and actually it was not repaired. It just had, for whatever reason, someone was in there before us. So, and that's probably also another reason why someone JB welded it. They might have been chasing a problem as well. So we had those two things fixed, made sure that that system was all nice and perfect. And when we were running our system tests with the factory scan tool, the last diagnostic check sheet you kind of showed, it's supposed to pull this thing into a vacuum and hold it there. And we pressurized the system, found no leaks, put it on the gauges, put the system in a vacuum. No leaks detected whatsoever with the engine off and the system's not operating. So what we ended up doing, physically tested the sensor. This is the left side fuel module. It's where the harness for the fuel pump goes in. Fuel pump is actually on the right side, but it snakes down in through. It's a saddlebag tank, and it connects to that side. On this side, you have your fuel pressure going out to the engine, and then this is what's called the fuel tank pressure sensor. This is what it's actually reading when it's doing the test. The new ones have been updated. They actually have an external sensor that can be replaced. This one is actually part of the module itself. When we were running the test, it was failing every single time. It actually showed like there was a bleed off in pressure in the system or a vacuum. But when we would test it on our own, activating it and putting a vacuum from our source, it was passing. So after much deliberation and checking, what we ended up doing is mid-test, that this actually runs the test with the vehicle running. We removed, after the system got pulled into a vacuum, removed the fuel pump connector right there, basically turning off the fuel pump. It allowed the car to die, and when we did that, it actually would pass the test, no problem. If we left the fuel pump connected, it would fail it every single time. So there was some kind of variable within that system. So when we actually pulled this pump up and actually plugged the fuel going to the motor off, underneath this system there's some hard plastic lines. You can see them, they're like a brownish color. There is a pinhole in one of the lines, and because it's like a fine itemized spray, it's spraying right on the back side of this sensor inside. When the fuel tank level is lower than the leak, it's spraying, atomizing, and changing the pressure in the tank. When the fuel level is high, if you have, like, say, over half a tank, 3/4 a tank, it would not register a change because that leak would just be dispersed into liquid. It would not change the pressure. So originally when we checked it, we probably had 3/4 of a tank, somewhere around that area, and so when we ran the test, it would pass. But now that we have about a little less than a quarter tank, that pinhole is now exposed and spraying on this actual sensor. So the fix is we have to replace this side of the fuel pump module. Actually, the plastic lines go under and connect to the right side of the tank, and it's also updated with a new harness because this style has been changed and gone away with. And then there's actually an update for where the fuel lines connect on the right side, which changes it. So that's basically what we found. It's a weird one. We appreciate your patience on this. It's just it's not the norm. We had to go through and fix what we knew was bad first, instead of start going off in left field and pulling everything apart and testing everything as thoroughly as we have been. This is, you know, a couple days in. I'm sure you know that, but we found the problem. This is what the fix is, and yeah, you should be good to go after this. But I just want to go through the procedures of what we did to check it. It's been a long road, but we never give up on cars as far as fixing them. So we got it all figured out for you. Hope this kind of helps Bob understand what we did to come to this conclusion. And if you have any questions, you can talk to me or Derek, your writer, and I'm glad to help you out. Thanks, Bob.